G'day travellers and welcome back to the channel. Egypt, it's a country that sits at the very top of countless travel bucket lists, home to some of the oldest and most spectacular monuments on earth. It's a place that can feel wonderfully overwhelming. If you're planning a trip to the land of the pharaohs, preparation is everything. Today, we're going over everything you need to know before you go, so you can spend less time stressing and more time taking it all in. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying the channel, it would mean the world to me if you could hit the like button and subscribe. Your support genuinely helps me continue to create these videos for you. Alright, let's get our bearings. Egypt's located in the northeast corner of Africa, bridging the gap between Africa and the Middle East via the Sinai Peninsula. The capital city is Cairo, a sprawling, chaotic and fascinating metropolis that sits right on the Nile River. It will likely be your entry point into the country. Before you clear customs, you'll need a tourist visa. For many nationalities, including Australians, you can apply for an e-visa online before your trip, or simply get a visa on arrival at the airport, which currently costs around $40 Australian. The official language is modern Standard Arabic, while most of the population actually speaks a distinct dialect known as Masri or Egyptian Arabic. Since tourism is one of the biggest industries in the country, almost everyone you come across will speak English, and maybe even French. Let's talk money. The local currency is the Egyptian pound. While larger hotels, major tour operators and nice restaurants will accept credit cards, Egypt is very much still a cash-based society. You'll need cash for taxis, local markets, tipping, and entrance fees for some smaller sites. Even if small vendors do accept card, be cautious when you're tapping. They may intentionally inflate the price, or their machines may not be secure. ATMs are widely available in Cairo, Luxor and Aswan, so you don't need to carry your entire trip's budget in cash from the start. Just pull out Egyptian pounds as you need them. A tip here though, hoard your small bills. Coins and small notes are incredibly hard to come by, and you'll constantly need them for tipping, known locally as Baksheesh, and for using public restrooms. Now, a quick word on haggling and dealing with hawkers, because it is a huge part of the Egyptian experience. At major tourist sites like the pyramids or the temples in Luxor, you'll be approached by incredibly persistent vendors selling souvenirs, offering camel rides, or trying to act as your guide. It can feel a bit overwhelming at first. The best approach is to be polite but firm. A simple, confident "La shukran," which means no thank you in Arabic, goes a long way. Avoid making eye contact or stopping to look if you aren't interested, and never let a vendor put an item directly into your hand unless you're actually planning on buying it. If "La shukran" doesn't work, you can try "La", which is a bit more forceful but still polite. If all else fails, just continue walking. On the flip side, if you're at a market like the famous Khan el-Khalili in Cairo and you want to buy something, haggling isn't just expected, it's practically a national sport. The initial price they quote you is often heavily inflated. A good rule of thumb is to counter with about a third to half of their asking price, and negotiate from there. Keep it friendly, smile, and remember that walking away is your strongest negotiating tool. They'll almost always call you back with a better price. When it comes to getting around, Cairo traffic is famously chaotic. I highly recommend using Uber to navigate the city. It's cheap, it tracks your route safely, and completely eliminates the need to haggle over fares in the street. Down in Luxor and Aswan, you rely more on local taxis or an app called Careem, which is like the Middle Eastern equivalent of Uber. Egypt's a predominantly Muslim country, and respecting the local culture will make your trip much smoother and more enjoyable. Modesty in dress is highly recommended for both men and women. For men, this means lightweight trousers or long shorts that cover their knees. For women, it's best to wear loose-fitting clothing that covers your shoulders, cleavage and knees. You won't get locked up for dressing like a Bali bogan, but you will get some incredibly foul looks, and you may get banned from going to certain places like temples or mosques. You should also be aware that the weekend in Egypt is Friday and Saturday. Friday is the holy day of the week, so expect many shops and businesses to be closed in the morning during prayer times. Egypt is a desert, so the weather dictates the tourist season. The absolute best time to visit is during the winter, from October to April. The days are sunny and comfortable, making exploring the outdoor temples much more bearable. However, this is also peak tourist season, so expect larger crowds. I went in February, and while the forecast for my trip was mid-20s, every day was over 30. The crowds weren't too bad, although I made sure to hit all the sites as early as possible to avoid the big crowds. Summer, running from June to August, is blisteringly hot. Temperatures in places like Luxor and Aswan regularly exceed 40 degrees Celsius. If you travel during this time, You'll need to do your exploring at the crack of dawn and spend your afternoons indoors or by a pool. Egyptian cuisine is hearty and flavorful. You absolutely have to try koshari, the national dish made of rice, macaroni, lentils and chickpeas, topped with a spicy tomato sauce and crispy onions. If you prefer high protein meals, you'll find plenty of excellent grilled meats, kebabs, and kofta everywhere you go. I also recommend you try the falafel. Egyptian falafel is made with fava beans instead of chickpeas. It's better than any falafel I've eaten before. When budgeting for meals, it can vary wildly. Street food like shawarma, fresh falafel and koshari is extremely cheap. However, if you sit down to a proper restaurant meal, expect prices to be similar to what you'd pay back home or in Australia, roughly $20 to $30 a meal. And remember that tipping your server is expected. So when it comes to tap water, everyone says something different. From it's safe but tastes bad, through to avoid it at all costs, even brushing your teeth and ice in drinks. I brushed my teeth with it and had drinks with ice, and I even boiled the kettle and used that to fill my water bottle. If you've got a sensitive stomach or you just don't want to risk it, stick to bottled water. Hotels usually give you a bottle or two and it's cheap to buy. Another thing to avoid though is side salads at restaurants. The vegetables will be rinsed in tap water. If a dish says it comes with a side salad, just ask for it without it or just don't eat it. Speaking of bottled water, here's a massive tip. Take your own snacks and drinks when you're visiting the sites, especially the ones far outside the cities, like Abu Simbel or the Valley of the Kings. Vendor prices at these locations have extreme markups because there is zero competition. I learned this the hard way when I paid over $20 for a black coffee and an ice cream. On the subject of coffee, ordering a cup here is an experience. From street vendors or at the sites, you might get anything from a simple instant Nescafe sachet to an espresso or a traditional Turkish style coffee. If you get the Turkish style, be warned, it's thick, spiced, and heavily sedimented at the bottom. Sip it slowly. Whatever you do, don't just down it like a shot. You'll usually be asked if you want it with or without sugar, but you've got to specifically ask for milk if you want it, as it almost always comes black. While coffee's common, tea is actually the most popular beverage in Egypt. It's usually served hot and black, though you can also order it with milk or fresh mint. You also have to try hibiscus tea, known as the tea of the pharaohs. It's a delightfully refreshing, sweet drink that can be served hot or cold. It's a sign of hospitality, so you'll likely be offered a glass of it at least once during your trip. Because of the local religious customs, alcohol isn't as freely available as it is in many Western countries. You'll find it in larger hotels, resorts, and tourist-focused restaurants, but a lot of smaller hotels and local eateries simply won't carry any. If you enjoy a beer, you'll come across two main local brews, Saqqara and Stella. To clarify, this is Egyptian Stella, not European Stella Artois. Both go down a treat on a hot day, but my personal preference is the Stella. Interestingly, beer has a massive history in Egypt. In fact, beer rations were the subject of the first recorded industrial dispute in history, when the tomb builders at Deir el-Medina actually went on strike over delayed payments of grain and beer. As for the local wines, I tasted a few during my trip and found them to be technically drinkable. Set your expectations accordingly. Travelling through Egypt is an adventure in every sense of the word. It can be loud and intense, but the sheer scale of the history and the warmth of the locals make it one of the most rewarding destinations on the planet. If you found this guide helpful, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more travel guides, cinematic tours, and tips from around the world. Let me know in the comments what you're most excited to see in Egypt. Thanks for watching, and happy travels.